Arizona's desert sun was sinking low as a group of bikers lounged outside a dusty highway diner, their motorcycles lined up like steel beasts. They laughed loudly, swapping stories from the road, when the diner door creaked open. A teenage girl stepped inside, her frame swallowed by an old, oversized leather jacket. The sleeves hung past her hands, and the collar sagged from years of use. A few bikers nudged each other and chuckled, whispering playful comments about her drowning in the heavy coat. She didn't look their way, keeping her eyes down as she walked toward the counter. But when she turned around, everything changed. The bikers' smirks faded instantly, replaced by stunned silence. Stitched across the back of the jacket was a patch most people would overlook, but not these men. The emblem was unique, hand-stitched with intricate detail, the Apache Tribal Rescue Patch. It was rare, sacred, and carried a story older than the girl wearing it. It wasn't something found in a thrift store or bought from a roadside shop. It was earned, by the kind of person who had risked their life for a native child. Among the bikers, Ryder Cole felt his heart stop. The noise of the diner faded until all he could hear was the pounding of his own pulse. He knew that patch. He had once held it in his hands. Years ago, he had received one just like it after stumbling upon a starving Apache child abandoned in the desert. He had carried the boy for miles, refusing to let him die alone in the scorching heat. That patch had been the tribe's way of saying thank you, a silent honor he never felt worthy of. Seeing it now, worn by a teenage girl who couldn't have been older than 16, sent a cold chill through Ryder's spine. Memories he had buried long ago came flooding back. Dusty trails, the weak cry of the child he found, the day the Apache elders had placed the patch in his hands. For a moment he wondered if this girl was somehow connected to that past. The odds were small, but the feeling gnawed at him, refusing to let go. He pushed away from his bike and walked slowly toward her, his boots heavy on the wooden floor. He stopped a few feet away, trying not to startle her as she waited for her order. "Where did you get that jacket?" he asked, his voice softer than anyone had ever heard from him. The girl stiffened, her shoulders tightening as if bracing for confrontation. She turned slightly, her eyes flicking up to meet his. There was fear there, not of him, but of something unspoken. He noticed the way her hands trembled slightly inside the jacket sleeves, and he instantly regretted how abrupt he sounded. It belonged to my father," she whispered, her voice barely holding steady. Every biker in the diner fell silent. Ryder felt the floor tilt under him as her words hit like a punch. The jacket wasn't just something she wore, it was something she carried. A memory, a weight, a story. Ryder swallowed hard, suddenly unsure whether he wanted to hear the truth or was afraid of it. If her father had owned that patch, then Ryder's past wasn't as distant as he thought. And this girl, this quiet, trembling stranger, might be the bridge between what he once did and a truth waiting to surface 4 days after meeting the teenage girl at the diner. Ryder Cole sat quietly on the porch of his small ranch house in New Mexico. The sky glowed orange and purple as the sun dipped behind the distant mesas. His dogs rested at his feet, the evening wind carrying the scent of dry earth and sagebrush. He had tried to put the encounter out of his mind, but the patch on that jacket kept haunting him. Memories of the starving Apache boy he once rescued drifted back in pieces he had tried for years to forget. Just when the quiet started to settle in, Ryder heard a soft knock. At the door, a gentle, hesitant knock, like someone unsure of their welcome. He rose slowly, his bones aching from old injuries and long miles on the road. When he opened the door, he froze in shock. Standing on his porch were 3 Apache women, each wearing beautifully woven shawls and carrying expressions filled with emotion, gratitude, and something deeper, something heavy. And behind them, half hiding, was the same teenage girl from the diner, her eyes watching him carefully, almost nervously. The eldest woman stepped forward with grace and dignity, her posture straight, her voice calm yet powerful. She spoke with a reverence that made Ryder instinctively lower his gaze. "You saved our child many years ago," she said slowly, choosing her words with the weight they deserved. "And now, we have come to return the honor." Ryder felt as if the world had tilted. He had never expected thanks, never imagined anyone would track him down, and certainly never believed the moment would come standing on his quiet porch after all these years. The truth unfolded gently, as if they feared overwhelming him. The teenage girl, they explained, was the younger sister of the boy Ryder had rescued in the desert. Her brother had survived because of Ryder's courage. Their family had never forgotten. They searched through tribal records, old maps, and community networks until they finally found someone who recognized Ryder's name. The girl had been wearing her father's jacket, the father who once received the same sacred patch Ryder had been honored with. The jacket had been passed down to her as a reminder of the man who saved their family. As the words sank in, Ryder felt his vision blur. Tears filled his eyes before he could stop them. For years, he had carried the memory of that small, starving boy, wondering what became of him, wondering if his efforts had mattered. Now, standing before him were the living answers, 3 women and a teenage girl whose entire family line had been shaped by that single, desperate moment in the desert. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand, embarrassed, but the women simply smiled kindly, acknowledging his emotion with deep understanding. The teenage girl stepped closer, her voice soft but steady. "Dad always said, the world still has good men in it," she whispered. "He meant you." Ryder's throat tightened at the simple sentence. It was as if years of guilt, doubt, and loneliness melted away under the warmth of her sincerity. The girl wasn't just thanking him, she was giving him closure, something he didn't know he needed until that exact moment. The women waited quietly, giving him space to absorb everything without rushing him. Ryder finally stepped aside, opening the door wider, his voice rough with emotion. "Please, come in," he managed. They entered his home slowly, respectfully, as if stepping onto sacred ground. And as the door closed behind them, Ryder felt a weight lift from his chest. He realized then that one act of kindness, made in a moment of desperation, could echo far beyond the desert sands. It could reach across years, across generations, returning to him not as a memory, but as a family standing at his door, reminding him that good deeds never fade.